Hello, my name is Enrique Barriuso. Welcome to this overview of the new features in Autodesk Civil 3D 2020. We will talk about the updated interface with some new colors and updated icons. We will explore the Export Civil 3D Drawing command, which has been improved to make it more stable and also includes a new option to export feature lines either as 2D or 3D polylines. We will also comment on the change to the survey databases. The format has changed, has been updated to the more secure SQLite, and we'll introduce the migration tool that Autodesk has developed to convert your survey databases from previous releases of Civil 3D. And finally, we will have a look at the Analyze Gravity Network command. The old wizard that we had in previous versions has changed to this dialog box that allows you to interact with the drawing. And we will look into some additional options and improvements that have been introduced in this command as well. The first aspect that we want to discuss is not a new feature as such, it's more of a change in the interface. We can see this new dark blue theme, this dark blue color applied to the ribbon, to the tool space. One thing to note, it hasn't been applied to the dialog boxes. If I open a dialog box, I can see that old light gray color remains. And the other main change in the interface is the icons. If you have a look at the icons in the ribbon, you can see that they look different. They have been redesigned with three goals in mind: to make them look more consistent in terms of colors and patterns, to better convey the purpose of the command, and to make them scale better and display better in 4K monitors and other high-resolution displays. Next, we will have a look at the Export Civil 3D Drawing command. This command has been improved to make it more stable. It no longer crashes. That's a problem that we had in previous versions. And the outcomes of the command are more predictable, and we'll also have an additional option that we will see in a second. So we'll start with this particular drawing. We can see we have some labels, we have some surfaces, both displaying contours and displaying triangles as well. We have some grading objects, we have some feature lines, and we also have a survey inserted as an XREF. So those points as displayed as text that we can see in the background, that's an XREF. So let's launch the command. Let's see what happens. The first thing that we notice different, if we go to export settings in the command, we have this new option, export feature lines either as 2D or 3D polylines. So we have that choice now. Let's start with 2D, for instance, then we'll have a look at the other option. We are going to select bind and explode the XREF. And let's change the prefix to 2D to identify the drawing. Let's click on export. Another thing that has been improved, we no longer get proxy state messages during the export process. That's something that happened in previous versions as well. So it has finished. Let's open the exported drawing. Okay, we'll have a look at that drawing. We can see that the labels have been exported and the mask for the text in the labels has been correctly placed. We can see the contours in the surfaces with the correct elevation. The triangles have been exported as 3D faces. We can see the grading objects there as well. The XREF, we chose to explode it, and we can see that it has been exploded correctly. We can see the different items, text, objects, polylines, all of them individual entities. And if we have a look at the feature lines, let's pick this one for instance. We chose the option 2D, so if we have a look in AutoCAD properties, we can see that the elevation is 0 for that particular feature line for all 3 vertices. So it has worked as we expected. Let's have a look at the 3D option. I'm going to close this one, go back to the original drawing, and let's export the feature lines as 3D polylines this time. And the XREF, let's select bind this time. Change it to 3D for the prefix. One thing I would like to comment as well is that these changes have been introduced with the 2020 version of Civil 3D, but they will also be included in some updates to previous releases like the 2018.3 update to Civil 3D. So you will have those options available in that version as well. Let's open the exported drawing. We can see that this time we didn't explode the XREF, so it's inserted as a block. The other entities remain the same. We can see the contours, the triangles from different surfaces. And if we select a feature line, we can see that now it keeps the level. So we can walk through the different vertices and we can see the level has been updated and it's now a 3D polyline rather than a 2D polyline. Another change that has been introduced in Civil 3D 2020 relates to survey databases. The format for these databases has been updated from the old Microsoft SQL Server Compact or SQL CE to the more secure SQLite format. If you have any survey databases from previous releases of the software that you want to use in Civil 3D 2020, Autodesk has developed a migration utility that makes it straightforward to make that conversion. You can see the dialog box on the screen, Autodesk Civil 3D Survey Database Migration Utility. And the way it works, you specify an input folder where you have your old survey databases. You specify an output folder where you want the updated format that you can use in Civil 3D 2020. You would click on Start. It will make the conversion. And notice that it will not modify the initial databases, so you will still have the old versions available and you'll have a copy of those with the updated version. Now we will have a look at the Analyze Gravity Network command. We will use this drawing with this pipe network that we can see there in plan and profile. Let's launch the command, select the pipe network. And the first thing that we can notice different from previous versions is that we no longer have the wizard that we used to have. Now we have this dialog box that allows us to interact with the drawing. So I can now select a pipe or a structure, zoom in and out. I could bring this dialog box to a second screen if I have another monitor, for instance. And in this dialog box, we have all the options so we can access them from one place. The first area, what we see here, it's different analysis types. You have 3 different types of analysis, and you can turn them on and off independently. So you can combine them however you want. You can resize pipes and reset inverts during the analysis. You can compute the energy and hydraulic grade lines, and you can also perform inlet analysis. For now, let's not resize the pipes and let's perform inlet analysis. We continue looking at the options. In outflow, you can select the outflow, and you have a new option. You have the ability to hold the outflow invert so that it will not change. On the right hand side, you can see the rainfall data. So you would pick your rainfall file. At the bottom, you may have multiple storms. You can access the intensity table as well to have a view of those intensities. And some other new options have been introduced in the tailwater condition as well. If we expand that, we have normal depth and critical depth. Those are new options. Let's select normal depth as the tailwater condition. To specify the different properties, the different hydraulic data that we need for the network, we can specify it in 2 ways. We can go to the structure or the pipe properties, or we can do it from network details as well. Because this dialog box allows us to interact with the drawing, I can at this point select the structure. I can go to structure properties, and I can have a look at some of the properties here. If I scroll down to part data, I can see a new option that was introduced with Civil 3D 2019.2, which is the structure type. So you can specify it if it's going to be a manhole, outfall, and inlet. And depending on the option that you select, you will have more or less parameters. Let's say I select inlet for a moment. If I select an inlet, I can specify a known flow. I can also specify a bypass target if I want to bypass the flow from this inlet to an existing structure. I can go here, select the structure that's going to be the target, or I can select it graphically if I click on the green cube icon as well. We also have some additional parameters, the geometry of the gutter, some of the parameters, the dimensions, and hydraulic parameters as well. Okay, so that's one option to insert the different data. Let's cancel that for a second. The other option, we can also do it from the command. If we go to network details, what we can see is in the initial view, we see all the pipes and all the structures. We can also apply filters there if we only want to see pipes, structures, or tributary flow. Let's leave it with all, and let's have a look at the different parameters that we can specify here. One thing to note, if I focus on the N value, for instance, here, we have a value there specified. if you select multiple cells at a time, you can change multiple values. So I can type, let's type 0. If I type 0, you will notice a warning that's not an acceptable value, and it's indicating that I need to specify a different value for the end value. So let's specify a different value. You can also control the columns that you will see. So if I right click on one of the columns, I can remove the tick box next to the column I want to remove, and I can customize the columns that I will see. If you have an end value of 0, you get the warning. If you don't have any known flows or you don't have any basins applied, you will also receive a warning. Let's keep those values. Let's go back to the main dialog, and let's have a look at settings. If you have a look at settings, we can specify a minimum and a maximum velocity that we may consider acceptable. And that will have to do with the results. We will get it highlighted in a red color, the velocity, if it's not within those margins. We can specify all their default values and also the colors for the hydraulic grade line and the energy grade line that we can superimpose to the profile, as we will see later on. Okay, so with those settings, let's go to Analyze. And we can see that for these parameters, at the moment, everything is flooded. We get a warning sign to indicate that. And we can also see that the velocity is highlighted in red, which indicates that it's either higher or lower than the limits that we specified in settings previously. As you select the different rows, you will notice both in plan and profile, you will highlight what you're selecting. And also on the right hand side of the dialog, you get some additional information. And if you hover over any of the warnings, it will indicate what the reason for the warning is. So we can see that with this particular diameter, it doesn't work. Let's go to start over and apply some different settings. We go to start over, and this time we are going to resize the pipes. Go to Analyze again, and we can see that now the performance is normal. The velocity, it's highlighted in a green color. It's within the margins that we specified. And as I click on the different rows, I don't get any warnings on the right hand side either. Next to the pipe diameters, I can see an arrow pointing up, indicating that the diameters have been increased to accommodate the flow. On the top right, we have this option, Profile. If I click on that Profile option, what we see is a preview of the new diameters and the new invert levels. We have the energy grade line and the hydraulic grade line as well. We can see those there, and notice that I can zoom in, I can pan around the drawing while in the command, which is quite handy. If I'm happy with those results, I can click on apply. By doing so, it will resize the pipes and it will apply the new invert levels. So I can click on apply. That will change the profile. to the new sizes. We can see that some bigger diameters. And the last option I wanted to show you is we can also generate a report. If I go to report, I can save a CSV file and it will generate it and it will open it in Excel. We can see all the results there in a table form. So we have finished with the command. We can go back to the drawing with the updated diameters. That was the last command, the last new feature that I wanted to show you. Thanks for watching.